It's vegan recipes with Pat and Emily.
Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make homemade pierogies. They're a traditional food usually served around Easter, but my family likes them year-round. I have experimented and tested the dough, I've tested the filling, I've gone back and forth, and I think now I have the perfect recipe that when you make it, the dough will be perfect and the filling will taste just the way you will like it. Also, at the end, I have a shortcut for making pierogies. I would like to show you some prep that you can do ahead of time. I have caramelized some onions. Some people like to fill their pierogies with prunes, so I've already soaked those and drained them. I like them with sauerkraut, and this bag of sauerkraut is a 2-pound bag. You have to squeeze out all the liquid, and it is amazing when you squeeze it out by hand. This is the amount of sauerkraut you get back. And of course, the traditional potato filling, I'm using a golden potato, russet, and I'm going to also make a sweet potato and russet filling for you as well. Naturally, you're gonna need flour. The next thing I'm doing is making the dough. And I like the dough to rest for about 15 minutes. So I am starting with 1 cup of flour. Usually I do large batch cooking, but we have practiced with pierogies so much that I'm just doing a smaller version for right now. Start with your flour, and I am adding salt and baking soda. Just a very little bit of each of those ingredients. The recipe, of course, will be below. Stirring the dry ingredients together. Something that I learned when I was making this small batch is that if you really didn't want a huge quantity, you'll be surprised. You could just make 9 at a time. Now, the next thing I'm adding is a little bit of oil. And I do try to avoid oil, but I found with these pierogies, if you want them to be light and fluffy, you need that oil, and you need that little bit of baking soda as well. And this is some water. You're just going to stir it like usual. The dough's going to be just a little bit sticky, but as it rests, it absorbs a little bit more liquid in the flour. And then when we're rolling them out, we'll be keeping the cutting board with a lot of flour on it. So at this point, I need to get into it with my hands, and I'm not putting it on the board yet. I want to get all of the flour incorporated into it. This is not really going to be kneaded like a bread dough, but I'm going to work it gently so that it forms a nice ball. You can see just gently moving the dough around. I want it to get nice and smooth, but again, I'm not actually kneading it. I'm working it like this. See in there, I want to get all of that worked in. You don't want that in your dough, even while it's resting. The dough is just where I want it. You can see it's smooth. If I break it open, I don't have clumps of flour. I'm going to just sit it on here, cover it, and then we will be right back to start making the potato filling. For the potatoes, I am going to start with about 12 ounces of potatoes. I actually weigh them out because then I know that I'm going to get enough filling for the 9 pierogies that batch of dough is making. This is for the one with sweet potato, and it's about 5 ounces. You can bake these in the oven, but this morning as I was experimenting, I found that really you can microwave them. The reason I don't boil them is I want all of the potato flavor to stay within the potato. In my microwave, I'll be able to microwave these for about 6 minutes and they'll be done. You will have to check your own microwave. I just squeeze them, and if they're soft, then I know they're done. If they're not soft, I just put them in again. Potatoes have come out of the microwave, and as I told you, I just squeezed them to see if they're soft. The golden one was a little bit larger, so it took longer, and this was from another day that was already cooked. I am going to now peel them, and they're really hot. It's important that you're working with them while they're hot because it just makes them have a better texture. I'm going to put my potato peel on the newspaper, and that can just go all in your compost, newspaper and all. You can see I have a couple pieces here that are a little bit dark where an eye was starting to form, so I don't want that in with my mixture. I think you can probably see how hot this is. Okay, so here's a few other places where an eye was starting to form. I'm putting these two potatoes together because they were 12 ounces. Now you'll see with the russets, you can almost pick them up and squeeze the filling out, but the Goldens have a different texture. Okay, we'll come back in a minute when I have them peeled. Potatoes are peeled and I'm mashing them just with a fork. These are not the type of potatoes that you want light and fluffy as if you were serving mashed potatoes. I'm seasoning today using Better Than Bouillon, the vegetable version of it, which is vegan, but I do have some instructions if you like nutritional yeast and garlic powder. Once they're mashed, I then put in the bouillon. And it's going to add a nice color. That's also one of the reasons I like to use a golden potato. It adds nice color. Now this is soy milk. I'm going to switch to a spoon. Right now this looks like it might have too much liquid, but you will see till I get it all stirred in, it'll be the right consistency. Okay, I'm going to set that aside and start mashing the sweet potato and the russet potato. Putting in the bouillon. That fork's a little bit noisy, so I just grabbed a rubber scraper. Before I add the milk, I want to get these two incorporated together. Okay, here comes the soy milk. Again, that looks like way too much, but it's actually fine. For the regular size pierogies, I take the filling and I make it into 2 tablespoon piles. This scoop holds 2 tablespoons. Those 12 ounces of potatoes amazingly make almost exactly 9 scoops. That one got cheated, maybe a tiny bit more. So there I got 11. Now for the sweet potato, you would get the same amount, but I am going to be using these sweet potatoes in my shortcut. So I'm using a 1 tablespoon scoop, and that will certainly make more than just the 9. Here is a sauerkraut filled one, and I have 2 tablespoons of potatoes, 2 scoops of 2 tablespoons, and same with the amount of sauerkraut. I will just mix that together. When you make them just with sauerkraut, they often break apart. Now, possibly if the dough had egg in it, they wouldn't break apart. This amount of potato and sauerkraut still gives you a great sauerkraut flavor. And this also, I'm going to make 2 tablespoon scoops, getting the sauerkraut to stay in there. See, I'm pressing it in a little bit. This doesn't make 4 full ones. Okay, next thing I'm doing is I will pop these in my freezer for about a half an hour. Then we'll be back. The filling has been in the freezer for about a half an hour, and you really don't have to do that. I do it because it gives me more control when I'm shaping the pierogies. So the dough's been resting for at least that 15 minutes. It's actually been more like an hour, and now I'm going to press it out, and I'm wanting to roll it into a rectangular shape. So I'm working it with my fingers to try to help that dough go that way when I'm rolling it. Gonna want to keep flour on it. It's a nice soft dough. I'm wanting to get it 12 inches by 8 inches. If you have a spaghetti maker, you could always roll it through there. 9 inches, that's a little bit under 8. This is more than 12, so I'm gonna just scrunch the dough together a little bit because I'm going for a certain thickness. Okay, that's closer to like 12. And that's 9, and that's 9. So that will be just fine. Sometimes I use this little one to try to get the corners. We are going to cut it in 3 pieces. You could measure it out. I am not in this case. Then I'm going to want this also in 3 because we are making 3 pierogies. Some of these are going to be a little bit bigger than others. I think I'll take that dough off in case I need some patches. I've got potato. I think I'll save the plums for the narrower ones. And these ones are the sauerkraut. Now, what I'm going to do is shape this filling a little bit. But I want all the filling at least on this half of each piece of dough. You can see when it's chilled like that, you have a lot more control of it. Now I'm going to wet the edges. You could use a brush. I'm using my finger. I'm a little bit quicker with my finger. Now I'm going to carefully bring the dough over. And I don't want to stretch the dough too much. It would make the top too thin. That's why I wanted to keep most of that filling on that half. I'm pinching it. Sometimes I pick it up, and that one needs a little more water to hold it. This one, because it didn't shape just perfectly when I was rolling it out, I will get it to come up. This is one of our sauerkraut ones. You want to be really sure that none of that sauerkraut gets in your crease. This is a potato one. I want to keep the sauerkraut ones together. Then the next thing I'm going to do is crimp them. I'm going to finish this up and I will be back with my shortcuts. I had a shortcut for making pierogies, and I am using wonton wrappers. These you can freeze because I rarely use that many at one time. So I freeze them and refreeze the package. For the wontons, I am getting the sweet potato and I'm shaping it pretty much in a triangle. It's a little bit stickier, but the sweet potato would not taste good if it was real stiff. Then I will make one with a prune. I think I could stick 2 prunes in there. And again, you're going to get 2 corners wet and you will carefully fold it over. Isn't that pretty? I'm also going to crimp them. I will finish making these and then we will come back for boiling. The water has to be boiling pretty hard. And I just gently put them into the water. You don't want to let them get stuck on the bottom though. Now these ones with the homemade dough, I will let them come up to a boil and boil for about 5 minutes. I turn them over also so that they are cooking on both sides. When they float, it's very easy for one side to cook more than the other side. Okay, I am taking them out of the boiling water and I will put them on a greased plate until I decide what I'm doing next. I want to show you how I fry them and that process doesn't really work great, but I still wanted to show you that. The wonton wrappers will cook 3 minutes and then you will want to drain them. And again, I put them on a greased plate. Right now, I am sauteing them in some vegan butter and sauerkraut. These will not get dark and crusty unless you really use a lot of margarine, which I'm avoiding. If you're going for a crispy texture, you can fry them. I'm going to turn it over. I'll fry till it gets brown. I'm only going to demonstrate one of these for you to see because I don't normally fry them. There, it's starting to get golden brown. Okay, that's what I have in mind. When you are rolling out the pierogies, you can always freeze them individually on a cookie sheet and then put them in a plastic container. When you go to use them, keep them frozen and then pop them into the boiling water. Here's all of the pierogies that we made today. Quite a variety. Anything for any taste. Let's start by looking at the ones filled with prunes. We have 2 of them that were made from the rolled out dough and 2 of them from wontons, and these taste really good with a sprinkle of powdered sugar. Next, you will see 3 pierogies from traditional dough and 1 from a wonton. They have been covered with caramelized onions and just rolled in a little bit of butter. Next are our sauerkraut version. Again, we've got 1 wonton and 2 from traditional dough, and they've been rolled in a little bit of vegan butter as well. Last, I thought I'd have a little bit of fun, and I fried a couple of these. 2 of them were the sweet potato wonton and 1 was a potato. The sweet potato wonton is actually very good with the powdered sugar. This tray, we have got all of the sweet potato with wonton wrappers. Some with sauerkraut, some with onion. I hope you'll like these. Cannot wait to taste these. I'm going to start with the ones covered in onion. So good. The dough is so tender, it's awesome. Of course, I can't eat a whole one. I have all of these other ones. These are with the prune. I'm going to try one in the wonton for you. Now that's a sweet treat. And here, this one's a sweet potato in wonton. my gosh, anybody should like that. And I wasn't planning on trying to fry some, but I thought, oh my goodness, I will give it a try. So here's a fried one. It has some powdered sugar on. The crunch is great. This is like a dessert. Thanks so much for stopping by. Please subscribe, also like us, and if you have comments, we want to hear from you. God bless you.
Thanks for cooking with us.
Cut to make me stop a minute.